I don't know why we didn't turn back when we had the chance. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was just the silence, how heavy it had gotten out there, that made it hard to think clearly. But looking back, I can trace everything that happened to one moment. That split second when we stood on the ridge, half buried in powder, and saw the chimney sticking out of the snow like a cracked tombstone. There were 5 of us: me, Leo, Taylor, Danny, and Marcus, all close enough to trust each other in the mountains, or so we thought. We'd planned a 3-day winter hike in the Rockies, something remote. No cell service, no towns, no lights except our own, just isolation and snow. It was supposed to be peaceful, meditative, clean. We set off on a Friday morning from the trailhead near Widow's Pass. By the second day, we were well off the grid, just snow, rock, and trees. In that strange, endless quiet that only winter knows how to carry. No birds, no wind, just the soft crunch of our boots and the whisper of breath. Around midday, Marcus noticed it first. That smoke. We all stopped. I didn't see it at first, just white and gray blending together. But then, yes, a thread of something curling up between the trees. Barely visible, faint. Not moving like real smoke either. It drifted too slowly, hung too heavy. We bushwhacked a bit, carving our way through a patch of gnarled spruce, and that's when we saw it. The chimney. It jutted up from the snow like the tip of a buried building, black stone and brick, caked in ice and ash. The roofline peeked out beneath a drift, steep and splintered. Everything else was buried. A cabin, half swallowed by winter, forgotten by time. Leo whistled. How the hell did this even get out here? There weren't supposed to be any structures this far up. Nothing on the map, no old ranger posts, no trapper huts, just untouched snow country. Taylor stepped closer. Looks like it hasn't been used in years. Then what's burning? I asked. Because something was. You could smell it. That faint metallic tang of soot. Not fresh, but lingering. Like something had been smoldering for a long time out of sight. Danny shrugged. Maybe a lightning strike? Dead chimney gas? We should check it out. I wish we hadn't. The door was on the downhill side, nearly hidden beneath a wall of snow. Marcus used the edge of his trekking pole to dig a narrow path. When we reached the porch, we found the door already cracked open. Just a hair. Just enough to show that someone had been there recently. Inside it was dark and wrong. That's the only word I can use for it. Wrong. Like something about the space didn't fit. It was bigger on the inside than it should have been. Deeper. The angles of the walls weren't right either. They sloped and curved where they shouldn't. And the silence was heavier in there. Not peaceful. Suffocating. Oh, and it was cold too. Far colder than it should have been. The kind of cold that sinks into your ribs. Taylor lit a lantern and held it up. The cabin was built from thick, rough-hewn logs. The walls were warped, the wood blackened like it had once burned from the inside out, but somehow didn't collapse. Icicles hung from the rafters inside. The windows were all sealed with ice, and in the far corner a single cot stood next to a cast iron stove, which was dead cold. No sign of recent use, no fire, no ashes. But we all smelled it. Smoke. And something else, too. Something sweet, almost coppery. It lingered just below the edge of smell, like syrup left too long on a hot burner. Creepy as hell, Marcus muttered. But it's shelter. Agreed. It was getting late. Snow had started again. A fine, dry flurry that whispered instead of fell. Going back would mean night hiking, and we'd left our tent 2 hours behind, pegged in a ravine. So we set up inside, rolled out our pads, got out the stove, made tea. We tried to ignore how cold it still felt, even with the door shut, how the wind outside never seemed to fade, but you couldn't hear it through the walls, like the cabin held sound out completely. Daniel took the cot. Leo and Taylor sat up by the far wall. I slept closer to the door. That night, I had the first dream. Wasn't much. Just snow, falling faster than it should have, swallowing the sky. I was standing alone outside, but the trees were gone, just a white horizon. And beneath the snow, something moved. Big, heavy, slow. I remember waking with my heart hammering, but the cabin was dead quiet. Except, outside, there were voices. Faint, muffled, as if speaking through snow. I couldn't make out the words, just a cadence, like whispering from a mouth pressed too close to ice. I thought I was still dreaming, but when I looked over, Leo was awake too. His eyes met mine. "You hear it?" he mouthed. I nodded. Neither of us moved, just listened. The whispering continued for another 5 minutes, maybe more, drifting from the snow outside the window. Then it stopped, like it had never been there at all. We didn't speak again until morning. I didn't say anything about the voices at breakfast, neither did Leo, but there was something unspoken hanging in the air, a tension that pressed into the corners of the cabin like frost. Dania was the only one who seemed normal. She was even humming while boiling water on the camp stove. Taylor looked tired, pale. Her hands shook when she poured her coffee. Marcus was already outside, stomping a circle through the snow to check the perimeter, though I had no idea what that meant out here. I stepped out to join him. The cold hit harder than it should have. Not sharp, but dense. It pressed against my ears and chest like I'd stepped underwater. The air didn't move, not even the barest whisper of wind. "Sleep all right?" I asked him. He just shrugs. "Weird dreams." Yeah, neither of us said more than that. The trees looked wrong in the daylight, their trunks bent ever so slightly toward the cabin. Not enough to notice at first, but once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it, like they were leaning in, listening. We circled the structure. From behind, we could see the full slope of the roof, half buried in drift, and in the snow near the back wall, footprints. Not ours. They were shallow, staggered, spaced strangely far apart, not quite human. Barefoot maybe, but wrong in shape. Too long, toes splayed like stretched hands. They led from the tree line to the cabin wall and disappeared beneath it. "There's no cross space," Marcus muttered. "No foundation gap. How the hell?" He trailed off. The wood near where the prints stopped was blackened and split, not from rot, but something older, something deeper, as if it had been burned into, not burned down. That's when I noticed the symbols, carved into the logs just beneath the snow line. Dozens of them. Circles, lines, crosses. Some looked like runes, others like tally marks. All were shallow, but precise. Weathered by time and frost, yet still clearly visible. I reached down and traced one. It felt warmer than the air. Marcus touched one too, then quickly yanked his hand away. It buzzed. What? It felt like it moved under my fingers, like it breathed. We didn't stay out much longer after that. Inside, Danny had pulled back one of the rugs and uncovered a trapdoor. "I wasn't trying to snoop," she said quickly when she saw our faces. "I tripped over the corner, and it just kind of popped up." The door was old, iron-rimmed, wood swollen from cold. No lock, no handle, just a thin seam and a brass ring. Taylor crouched beside it. "Think it's a root cellar?" "Could be," Danny said. "Or a coal chute, something pre-electric." We all stared at it in silence. None of us moved to open it. Eventually, Leo stood up. "We should mark it and leave it shut. We're leaving tomorrow anyway, no need to poke around." And everyone agreed. But the mood had shifted again. That night, the cold was worse. The lantern burned strangely. The flame curled sideways, even though there was no breeze. Shadows in the room stretched longer than they should have, pooling in corners where light should have reached. We didn't build a fire. The stove wouldn't light. We tried everything. Twigs, stove tablets, alcohol gel. Nothing would catch. It was like the metal rejected flame. And then, around midnight, the whispering came back. Only this time, it wasn't outside. It was underneath us. I woke to the sound of breathing, slow, rhythmic, as if something massive lay under the floorboards, its lungs rising and falling in the dark. The others were awake too. I could see it in their eyes. Leo whispered, "It's coming from the trap door." We all stared at it from our sleeping bags. The brass ring rattled. Just once. Not loud, barely audible, but it felt like thunder in my chest. Then everything went still. No more breathing, no more sound. We sat like that until dawn, and when the first gray light filtered through the frost-caked windows, Danny was gone. Not outside, not in the bathroom, not under the blankets, just gone. And the trap door was open. We didn't speak for a long time. Leo just stood there, staring at the open trap door like it might breathe again. Taylor had one arm around herself, shivering. "Not from the cold, I don't think." Her lips moved silently, mouthing words I couldn't make out. Marcus was already grabbing the emergency flashlight, knuckles white. "She wouldn't just leave," he muttered, more to himself than anyone. "She wouldn't just go down there." But she had. The trap door yawned open like a wound. Below it, only darkness. Thick, complete, the kind of dark that eats light. Leo clicked the flashlight on and leaned over. "Danny?" he called, voice cracking. Are you down there?" No answer, just a low creak, like shifting timbers. Then silence again. I knelt beside him and peered into the void. The beam barely reached the bottom. The space below looked like a root cellar. Stone walls, old shelves. But parts were blocked by sagging boards and debris. Something glinted at the far end. A nail? A bottle? No sign of Danny. "We go together," Marcus said. "No one alone." He went down first, flashlight cutting through the dark in long, narrow arcs. Leo followed, then me. Taylor stayed above, pale and unmoving. The cellar was colder than outside. The floor was frozen dirt, brittle and cracked. Shelves lined the walls, holding jars so old the labels had peeled away. Inside them, dark sledges moved slightly, like they were still alive. But it was the smell that hit me hardest. Damp. Rot. And something beneath that. Something metallic and wrong. Like blood in snow. "Over here," Marcus called, crouched near a collapsed section of wall. I moved beside him. The rocks were scattered strangely, like something had pushed through from the other side. Beyond them was a narrow tunnel, barely wide enough to crawl through. The glint I'd seen earlier, it was an old oil lamp, lit. Its flame burned steady, untouched by breeze or movement. "I don't like this," Leo whispered. Something was scratched from deeper in the tunnel. A dragging, broken sound, soft, repeating. We froze. Then, "Guys," Taylor's voice echoing from above. "There's someone outside." We scrambled up the ladder, hearts pounding. She was by the window, pointing. And outside, in the snow, footprints. Coming from the woods, circling the cabin, then vanishing near the back wall again. No one visible, but the forest had changed. The trees were closer. No, not closer. Taller, twisted. Black ice veined the bark-like veins under skin. Branches curled inward, bending toward the roof like claws. The light was wrong too. Duller, grayer, like the sun had dimmed behind something heavy and slow. "We have to leave," Taylor said suddenly. "Right now." Marcus shook his head. "Not without Danny." "She's gone, Mark. Whatever's down there, whatever this place is, it isn't right. You saw the prints. I'm not leaving her behind." We argued for hours. The compass didn't work anymore. Neither did our phones. Even our watches had stopped ticking. I held mine to my ear and heard a faint clicking, like teeth chattering. Eventually, Leo agreed to go back into the cellar, just one more time, just to check the tunnel. When he didn't come back up after 10 minutes, Marcus followed. Then 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Taylor and I sat in silence until the trap door shut on its own. Just a low thunk, like something brushing it from below. I didn't move. Taylor gripped my hand, fingers like ice. "We were never supposed to find this place," she said quietly. "It's remembering itself, and it's trying to pull us in." I didn't understand at first, but when I looked out the window again, the forest was gone, just white. White in every direction. No trees, no tracks, no sky. Just endless, falling snow. Taylor fell asleep sitting up, wrapped in the emergency blanket, her back against the wall. I tried to stay awake, but the quiet was so dense it pressed on my chest like weight. Even the storm outside had stopped. The snow still fell, yes, but silently now, as if sound had been swallowed along with the rest of the world. I kept thinking about the cellar door, whether it would open again, whether someone or something would come back up, but nothing did. Oh, Blair, I must have drifted off sometime near dawn, if you could call it that. The light never changed, just the same dim gray bleeding through the windows, hour after hour. When I woke, Taylor was gone. At first I thought she might be in the outhouse behind the cabin, but when I stepped outside, I stopped cold. There was no outhouse. There was no cabin. I was standing in the snow, alone. I turned around slowly. No trees, no slope, no trail, no roof. Just white and quiet. The kind of quiet that hums in your ears, where even your own breath feels wrong, like it doesn't belong. I spun in place, panicked, screamed her name. Taylor, Marcus, Danny, Leo. No echo, no answer. But then I saw it, off in the distance. A dark line on the horizon. I ran toward it. My boots sank deep with every step, like the snow wanted to pull me under. Still, I kept going. It was the cabin, or it looked like the cabin, but not quite. The roof was more slanted, the windows were boarded, smoke curled from the chimney, black and thick. I hesitated, but where else was there to go? When I pushed the door open, heat hit me in the face like a wall. Too warm. The air was thick with smoke and a sharp coppery tang, like pennies held in your mouth too long. Taylor sat at the table, staring at me. Her eyes were sunken, skin pale and papery. "You left," she whispered. "You left me in the snow." "I didn't," I said. "You disappeared." "But," she shook her head, "you did. And time works different here. I've been waiting." I stepped forward. That's when I saw her feet. Bare, blackened, frostbitten, toes fused together like melted wax, and her breath didn't fog. I backed away. Another door creaked open behind me. Marcus stepped out, clutching a lantern. His eyes were wide, wild, covered in soot. "I found it," he whispered. "I found where the tunnel leads." "Where?" I asked, swallowing. He pointed to the fireplace. Not the chimney, the fireplace itself. The flames flickered strangely, colors I couldn't name. The bricks pulsed, the same slow rhythm I'd felt in the floorboards days ago. "No," I said. "No way." "It's the only way out," Marcus said. Taylor stood. Her legs shook. "We're part of it now," she said. "Can't you feel it? Every hour we stay, the snow forgets us. The world forgets us." The lantern Marcus held began to hum, and I heard it again. That voice, low, whispering beneath the crackle of fire, calling my name. I looked back at the door, but it was gone. only walls now, and snow behind the windows. I took a breath, stepped toward the hearth, and then the floor split open beneath me, falling down, down through the cabin, past wood and roots and stone, past bones buried in frost. Past time. I saw flashes, faces I didn't recognize, a woman frozen against the cabin door, a man kneeling in the snow, his arms outstretched to a sky that was no longer there, a child with black eyes staring from beneath the floorboards. Then darkness again, until I opened my eyes, and I was back at the cabin table, alone. The fire was out. The snow had sealed the windows. I heard footsteps above me, from the attic. I didn't know how long I'd been sitting there. The cold had crept into my bones, not biting anymore, but settling, like it had always been there, like it belonged. The fire was dead. The light was gone. But the sound above me remained, deliberate, slow. Footsteps. From the attic we hadn't noticed until now, from the space overhead that hadn't been there before. I stood up too fast, the chair scraping behind me, but no echo followed, just that sound above, a dragging gait, circling slowly. I whispered Taylor's name, nothing. I called for Marcus, Danny, Leo. Only silence answered me, and the sound above the ceiling. I didn't want to open that door, not after everything. But when I turned around, the front door was gone. Only wood, solid, as if it had never been there. The only way left was up. The attic door creaked as I pulled it down. A thin ladder extended itself like it had been waiting. The air that spilled down was colder than outside, and it stank of mold and rust and something else. Decay. I climbed slowly, each step hollow and unsure. My hand trembled as I pushed open the attic hatch. Darkness. Then, a figure crouched in the far corner. At first, I thought it was Taylor. Same shape, same clothes. But as my eyes adjusted, I saw the truth. It wasn't her. The limbs were too long, the skin grayish blue, pulled tight over jutting bone. Its head was tilted too far, like it had been listening for a long, long time. And then it smiled. Not with its mouth, but with its face. The skin around its jaw cracked open like old leather, revealing rows of flat, human teeth. I backed down the ladder, fast. But when I hit the floor again, the cabin was gone. I was standing in the snow, but not alone. They were all there. Taylor, Marcus, Danny, Leo, kneeling in the white, eyes open and glassy, frozen, mouths agape like they had been mid-screamed. I stepped toward them, shouting their names, touching their shoulders, but they didn't move. They didn't even blink. And then I noticed the fifth figure, standing just behind me, its breath on my neck hot and slow. It turned and saw myself, frozen, hollow-eyed, staring. It opened its mouth and I heard my voice, but warped, layered beneath others, as if it had learned to mimic me, or become me. "We stay," it said. The snow began to fall harder. I looked up and saw the cabin rising again around me, built from the storm, log by log, window by window. And I realized there was no way out. Not anymore. Because we had found a place forgotten by time. And now it had remembered us. And we were part of it. The walls closed in again. The fireplace cracked to life. Somewhere upstairs, footsteps began walking. Again. And again. And again. And I sat by the fire, just like I had before. Waiting. Still waiting. Just like the ones before me. Just like the ones after.